Hi, it's Liz from Lohas Canada. It is April the 8th, 2020. This is a podcast talking about knitting, about sewing, and all other crafty things. So it's really been an awesome week. We have some garden beds and potato boxes that have been made, and I've also joined an online basically resource center for sewing, which is amazing, and I've been diving into those articles for the last couple days. So I just want to talk about a couple of things that have been changing it up this week and the last couple of weeks. I've been washing my hair with chickpea flour and then some sort of vinegar rinse. And if you haven't seen chickpea flour ones, the videos, they are great, by Fairyland Cottage, and I watched a lot of her videos because she's been doing it, I think now for over 2 years, washing her hair with chickpea flour. And there's that transitional time, and then your hair starts to get used to it, so I thought I would take this opportunity to have my hair in this transitional time. It is definitely something to get used to. I thought I could maybe like pre-make some of the chickpea and flour and water together and leave it for a couple days so I could wash my hair every other day, and then I wouldn't have to make the mixture all the time. But chickpea flour is disgusting after a day or a day and a half. It just goes like rancid, like worse than rancid, so I really have to get on top of that and just kind of wash it here and there, and then use the vinegar rinse when I wash my hair, so that really takes out that extra grease. So the consumption eating I was doing a couple weeks ago, that I was gaining weight and then I ended up cutting back and ended up losing that weight. To me, that also means my body's a little bit inflamed if I'm eating as much and then not being able to take that weight off, so it's not processing out of me. So I wanted to do a 2-day cleanse, or a 1-day cleanse actually was my intention. So I just did a 2-day cleanse and just kind of reset the body. It's kind of interesting, there's this one comedian, and I can't remember his name, but I think it's a him, but he had this joke of like, definitely in the West, we have lots of cultures over here, but the majority of them, like our main holidays, it's Easter and Christmas and Thanksgiving, and it's all centered around food, like consumption of food. You sit around, you chat, you have some drinks, you have some food, you have potlucks, you have all these different things, and it's all centered around food. It's kind of like our time to be gluttonous. And his joke was saying, all the other areas around they're centered around, sometimes around food, but then also about fasting. And that's a really big part of different cultures and different belief systems. They have a fasting component to it. And really here, I haven't been taught to fast. I haven't been taught any of that. So it's been interesting. I probably started this about like 5 years ago, and just every once in a while to do 1 day of just cleansing. So let's talk about knitting now. So I haven't bought any knitting supplies, and I've been kind of on the fence about it because I do want to support some of the local knitters, especially those knitters that got their events canceled, that have all this yarn that they've dyed, who have been thinking about that surplus of money that they were going to get. So I was really on the fence, and I didn't get my insurance, my EI, until today actually. So I've been holding off on that, so I haven't bought any new yarn. I also went through my yarn stash, and I don't have a huge stash, but I had it all in this box before, and I was very proud to keep it at very too minimal, and now that box is kind of overflowing. So I do want to get that down before I do buy any other yarn. So I'm just going to be waiting for that before I start knitting more stuff and then being able to justify buying more yarn. So I do have a finished object, and these are socks. So one sock was knit a couple years ago, and then this other one I just finished up. So I only did one sock this week. I have no idea how people do multiple like pairs of socks in a week, or a sweater, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I guess I do different things, and if I just focused on knitting, maybe that's how it would go. This is a bamboo nylon mixture. I'd have to look it up. I totally forget. I'll put it on the screen though. But it does have a lot of stretch, and I showed these ones last week, and they are I haven't blocked them yet. So the only whip that I do have is that vest from last week. I still haven't done anything with it. For me right now, it was just this last week, it was just too much to try to figure out how to crochet it in a really nice looking way. So I just want to get some more crocheting done before I try it out on the sweater, because would have been my only second time to crochet. So the sock pattern is from the Unapologetic Knitter, and it's my vanilla sock. So this is the standard sock that I knit, and it's been really great. So I do want to get the vest done. Once the vest is done, then I'll have a clear slate to knit other things. And the next project I have in mind is the hat Dana. Now, I've already done the hat Dana, but in the fingering weight, but I totally screwed up on it, and I didn't even do the cables, and I knit it with, I didn't understand the pattern, and the ladies at the knit night wrote it out to me. So I ended up making it quite long. No, I made it quite wide and not as long. So that's just because I wasn't reading the pattern correctly. It wasn't super beginner friendly for me. But once they broke it down, told me how that they would decipher it, then I understood it and put it in terms that I can understand. So this was the first one that I made, and it's quite the wrong shape. So this one is supposed to be the front, but I still wear it. It's still really nice. I wear it around my neck. It is very drapey. This got some, I think, wool and silk. I forget the blend. But so I did buy this pattern, so I want to learn how to knit it, and we're still kind of in the cool-ish months. So I want to do it before it gets too hot, and I don't want to knit anything with wool. So I'm going to be knitting it with this wool, and this one I bought at Christmas time, and this is a merino wool, and Vera, what was her name? Vera Hoyes dyed it, and I got it at the Qualicum Beach Weavers and Spinners Guild. So she had some, and it's dyed with, it's a 3-ply, and it's dyed with mushroom. So it's almost a DK weight. And it's just, I love the color. I bought her headband as well, so that she already made. So I think this would be an awesome color for the hat Dana. And I possibly have another colorway depending on how quickly I knit this, and if I like knitting it, I do have another colorway that's just a solid one that I used for my sweater. I have an extra skein left, so I thought that might be a fun option too, because it's so nice against your skin, some of the wool. So I thought that would be awesome. Alright, so that's all I have for my knitting. For sewing, I joined Foundations Reveal. So that's with Kathy Hay. You probably heard of Bernadette Banner. And so she was talking about it, and I was thinking about it because we're in this time where we're at home, I can learn a new skill, and I really wanted to take the most of this time to figure out what I wanted to create, what I wanted to do, and it just seemed like, oh, that's open. I should totally have a look. I should totally join and see what's happening over there, because there's just so much information that was on that site that was even free, that you could have a baseline, and I knew that there'd be like so much more information once you paid to get into this. I guess it's a membership, I would call it. It's not necessarily, I wouldn't say it's a course. Like, you don't go in there and there's like units, like unit 1, 2, and 3, and you go through these steps to get through the unit. It's definitely more about articles. It does have some workshops in there, so you can have a look. There's a lots of, it's more articles that you read, not necessarily articles that you watch. I think the course set that Bernadette made, she has a video about it on her channel, but then she actually has like a paper, like she wrote an article about it, and that you can read it, have a look through all her steps, her processes. There's a whole bunch of other amazing writers on there and amazing people who have so much knowledge that you could just look up whatever you're searching for, and it'll like appear right there with an article, and it breaks it down for you. So there's people who have done patterns like simplicity patterns or butter eggs, doing corsets, and they tell you how they break it down and kind of show you step by step what worked for them, what didn't work for them. There's other stuff in there that talks about like the history of fabric and like where the good fabric is and what did they use in the historical times. And for me, that's really important because I don't have that foundation. So I'm not interested so much as in like I want to dress up as a 19th century or 18th century woman. I'm looking at it more as like I want to understand the fabric. How did the fabric move? What was it made of? How is it different than what we're using today? The quality of it. And then also like the stitching. Like there's going to be different methods because now we all have sergers or we're using different things that don't fray. But back then everything was either cotton or linen. It was all natural materials. So how are we using those different things so they don't fray and they last a long time? So that's the direction that I'm coming from. The thing that really sold me was about body shaping. So understanding how the body works, and that's a lot more like tailoring because you're tailoring to the person's body, their posture, and all these different aspects. So for me, to understand the tailoring and how things come together, especially I want to make a corset because that will really understand the fundamentals of how your body moves, understanding how to make corsets. So I think that's a really great start for me, and not necessarily have a collection of historical clothes or anything like that. I think taking the clothes and the styles that we have now, incorporating it with how they did it before so that they're better fitting, that the material lasts longer, that I'm choosing better material, and that I'm understanding on how it works and how it moves. So I'm only, I think, a couple days in, or maybe like 3 or 4 days in, and every morning I've been reading a couple articles. I usually always say like, okay, I'm just gonna read one article in the morning and I'll start my day and then I'll figure out what I'm gonna do today. And I do have a whiteboard of all the stuff that I plan to do today, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm gonna get it done, but just some sort of general ideas. So then sometimes when your brain turns off, you're just like, what do I need to do? And then I can just look at the board. So I sit down in the morning time, read an article. My intention is only to read one article, but a lot of the times I'm reading, I think every morning I've been reading like 3 or 4 articles because it's just like, sometimes there are series like how to make a corset fit you better, or you can just do a series on like blouses, different types of blouses for different eras, and then there's like the historical fabrics and all this stuff. So it kind of takes you different down rabbit holes that you didn't even know. So they do have a Facebook group and people post stuff in there. So you can kind of see what other people are working on and then also what they're referencing to. So then things that you never even thought of, you can also reference. So I feel like YouTube, you have your circle of YouTube people that you watch, and then when you go to Foundations Revealed, it was like, oh my gosh, like there's just so many more people who have these specialized skills that aren't on YouTube, or maybe they are and they're just not within my feed, and you just realize there's like a whole nother section of skills, of knowledge, and that is just kind of like YouTube now, I feel like just like the tip of the iceberg. It gets you in, it gets you into the cave, and then when you're in the cave, you're like, oh my gosh, and you start going down all these different areas, and you get down through all these different tunnels, and you find and explore different things, but just to get you through there, you kind of have to know where to look. So that's what I find YouTube is. It's great as like a beginning, I think, and then now I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much more. So this week I bought a lot of patterns just because I want those staples in my wardrobe. From Helen's Closet, I bought the pattern, the Winslow, so they're pants. They're quite baggy pants. And then they also have, I think they're shorts with pockets, but I was thinking I could probably make that into a dress with pockets and just really basic standard things. But I thought they would be really cute in some linen. And Helen's Closet actually just moved to the island, to Vancouver Island. So she's actually in Courtenay and I'm in Parksville. So she's about, 45 minutes away from me. So that's pretty awesome that I'm able to support local pattern makers. And that's been something I've been wanting to make as one of her patterns. So the other patterns that I've got is from Ellie and Mac sewing patterns. So I don't know exactly where they are, but I really liked what they had. So I'm just going to read what I got. They have a sew it forward sock pattern, so if you have some extra material, it's actually a free pattern, so you can make your own sock. So I thought that would be a really great stash busting pattern to do. So I got their tulip dress and tunic pattern. So it's kind of a tight fitting, it looks like a lot of stretch material, but I was thinking I could try to figure out a way to do it something in a linen type. Linen is very stiff and then it starts to soften up, but they're using very flowy things. So I thought that'd be interesting to play with. They also have the raunched tee, and that kind of has more of an interesting back. It kind of not laces up, but you have like a scrunched up look at the back. So I thought that'd be really great for linen because linen wrinkles anyhow, and then you're able to get it in and out of it a little bit faster and quicker. And the one that actually drew me there, they had the Feeling Frisky Panties pattern. And they actually had really good reviews on that, so I want to try that pattern out because it's been on my list for a little bit to make some panties. And I usually go to the store and get them, but the problem I've been finding is they haven't been 100% cotton. So I don't mind there to be elastic around like the waist and the leg parts, but throughout the whole thing it's not very great to have some sort of elastic against your skin. So you really want to have something that's 100% cotton, and then I didn't want something that looked like a little kid, you know? So it's either like you get the really sexy frilly lots of plastic in it, or like this little child like thing. So I wanted to make my own, and that's been something I've wanted to do. So I bought the pattern. So in my area, the printing service is also a fax place, and it's deemed an essential service because people need to send off documents to different places. So I was able to get those patterns printed on large formats because I didn't want to piece everything together. It was quite expensive, probably I think $11 for each sheet, not each pattern, but depending on how many patterns that you had that would fit on a sheet of theirs on a standard size. They do blueprints for a lot of places too, so just kind of that size. So it was okay. It would just kind of depend on how many you're printing, but I didn't really want to piece everything together, and I just wanted to kind of have a standard one that I could keep and that it was completely done for me. So I picked those up yesterday, so I haven't done anything with them yet. They just sat there. So right now I'm cutting out some menstrual pad fabric, so I'm gonna play with that for the next couple months, figure out how much material needs to go in, figuring out what types of material works better. So I've just cut out the top layers and of different colors so then I could figure out and track which ones belong to what fabric is inside. I have a bamboo fleece and also it's a bamboo cotton fleece and then a hemp cotton fleece. And one of those kind of looks a little nylon-y, so I'm not too sure if there's other stuff mixed in with it. But the one that I really like, we'll see how it holds up after some continuous washing. And then also I have to cut out the fleece for the back. So I haven't done any of that. I've just cut out the top pieces because I want to do multiples of it. And that should be interesting for the next couple months, and then kind of refine and tweak the pattern. So, and a lot of people use Zorb, which is trademarked, and it doesn't tell you, obviously, because it's trademarked, what's in it. So it's a bit tricky. You obviously don't put it directly against your skin. You'll have something on the top layer and the bottom layer so that the Zorb is in the middle and that it absorbs whatever's in that. But it's just, for me, I just don't know what it is, so I'm trying to go down the route of trying to do it with no plastic in it, that it might not last as long, but at least it'll all naturally break down at the very end. So that's what I've been playing with for the last couple days, and just trying to figure out what would be the best way and the best material and how I would put it together. So right now I've also been making mats for people and sending those out and giving them to local places. I've also made some head scrubs type things, so I have to still send those out to some people. And I'm also wearing a top. So I made this top, and it's quite short. It's got an open back, and it's a nice top. I like it. It just fits a little bit wide, and that could be from me, from the pattern and the sizing. So for this pattern, I chose a 14 because I was thinking about my hip size and my waist, but my bust isn't a 36, it's a 34. So I should have probably maybe went down to a 12 and it is actually quite a little bit loose here. And with the princess seams, and it does have like a backing. So the backing I wasn't super happy about because I didn't realize at first, because I obviously didn't read the whole thing, is that I'm supposed to cut out 2 of these pieces, and so you have one for the front and one for the back. And I find if you cut them exactly the same, they don't match up great. So I should have trimmed the back a little bit and then maybe not put the princess seams in it. So they have the princess seams at the back, so I don't know if it's meant to be reversible or why they would have it like that. But, and also the tie at the back of my lower back, I'm right together, so there's no room that no extra room, so I didn't need the ties as long. So I don't know if that's just how it's supposed to go, or if it's supposed to go down like further down my body. I think it's really cute for like the first thing. It only took me like an hour and a half maybe to make it. It was not very hard. This is the McCall's 2742. And for my size, I did a 14. I should have done a 12 though. So lesson learned. The thing is, what I wanted to do with this is, so it's got princess seams. It's not super, it's okay flattering. Like it's kind of goes across my, my nipple area. So what I want to do, and it's just the front part, I don't have to worry about the back because the back is a different construction obviously than the front, is figure out how to piece this together as I would possibly like a corset. I think that would be kind of interesting, figuring out how the body shapes to a certain way when it's this type of fabric. I just thought that would be kind of an interesting project to do for the front, and the back can be a whole different thing because, I mean, the way we move at the back, my shoulders are also rounded in a little bit too, so definitely need to sit up a bit straighter, but have, and I do exercises to push my shoulders back as well, but that's a whole different construction. So I just really wanted to focus on the front, and this was like the first step. So last week I had on the mannequin, it was a blue vest, and it kind of looked like, if I was wearing jeans, it looked like I was going fishing. If I was wearing leggings, it looked a little bit like I was going fishing too, but not so much. So I was trying to figure out what to do with it. I looked at the tag, it's actually made in Vancouver, Canada, and it's a very well made garment. And I was thinking about tailoring in or figuring out some sort of way I could make it so it didn't look like a fisherman's vest. So what I've decided, I didn't actually show you the other side, but there'll be a video on it of where I flip it around. It's got this interesting floral pattern on the other side. And what I'm going to do is just pick out the seams for the tags, and then I'm going to reverse the buttons. So the floral pattern is on the outside and the pocket and the other stuff is in the inside. There will be a video on it and you can see what I'm talking about, but I thought that would be kind of interesting to do it like that, and I would wear it way more than I think it was just all solid, this blue corduroy. And the mannequin this week is a garment I got from Japan. I was there in May 2019 is when I came back, but I was there for 3 months, then went to Korea, and then went back to Japan for another 3 months. They didn't super like me at the Japanese border, even though there is no regulation to come back in and be out of the country for an extended period of time. So I was only out of the country for like 4 days and then came back to Japan, and they just were like, why? And I was like, there's no rule that I can, I just have to leave the country for a couple days and then I can come back. You guys don't have any hard or fast rules. So they didn't like that because I was on a tourist visa. So, but they still let me in, and they didn't ask too many other questions. So when I was there, I was staying in Osaka, and I was up a little bit west for a bit at a rice farm for the last 3 months in a little town, and it was amazing. I really had a great trip. And in Osaka, they have flea markets, and it's at this temple, and you just go there and they don't really haggle as much, I would say, sometimes. Or maybe because of the language barrier, but they did have these types of styles for $5 basically. So I ended up getting one, and then it just smelled so musty though, and so I thought I could put it on the washing machine on the delicate cycle, and I couldn't. So it started to fall apart because, so basically the stitches are hand sewn, and they seem to be very, very wide stitches, like something you would do for a basting stitch. So having those, I really like the fabric still, so I'm gonna do some sashiko on it, and they do have a little bit of rips on it from the washing machine, which is very unfortunate, but I'm just going to piece it back together and have a look and see what I can do with it. It's not something I normally will wear, so I want to also try to refashion it so that it's a bit more fashionable to what I will be wearing, and I can use it for every day. So probably tailoring in some of the sleeves and figuring that out. So I'm just going to focus in on that for the next couple of weeks. I do have 2 of them, so 2 different colors. Their terminology is boro, so it's B-O-R-O, but their R's, they say like L's. There isn't an R in their vocabulary. So like when they say rice, it's always like lice. And so yeah, that's always, I'm like, no, lice is like not good. So it's bolo. And there's some Facebook groups and stuff, and you can see some beautiful stitching and how they repurpose things and refashion things and they just don't throw things out. So there's some good eye candy in there. So that's it for me today. If you would like to subscribe, please do so and like the video. If you want to leave me comments on what you're working on, or if it's something you're struggling with, or if you just want to have a chat, that's cool too. Let me know down below, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.